What were you studying prior to those? Like what things have you already utilized as resources?
So I used the I was doing the 240 tutoring. So
Okay.
everything that I was doing, I'm a writer. So I write everything down and then I just go over it. And I was doing that. And then I had some worksheets from the videos that I did at the very beginning. I don't know what it was called, but it was like all the videos you watch and then you have to take the quizzes at the end. I don't know which one that one was.
Study.com, I think.
Yeah, that one.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I don't even know what to do. I took practice tests. I saw that there was like online like practice tests also, and I was taking those too. And so I was like full mode on it. And then when I took the test, I was like, some questions were, I mean, I'm not expecting it to be 100% what I'm looking at, but I know that
Right. But
what I was
commiserate with
looking
what
at,
you've practiced.
yeah, it's like it's questions that I'm like, we didn't even go over that, or like, it's stuff like that. Like
Right.
I felt so lost.
So your area is 4 through 8, and each of the grade levels, and we're going to look at the TEKS in a little bit. And we're already there because, like I said, I just finished with someone like 5 minutes ago, and we were doing social studies 4 through 8. So, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna link you guys up so that you can study with each other. You can break down and do whatever, share notes, resources, have a study session maybe, because
Okay.
sometimes people learn through partnership and group, just like our students learn. And so if that's something you guys are wanting, I can certainly do that. But the
Yeah.
TEKS are what's most important. The TEKS and your standards. Sorry, I hate it when it does that. The TEKS and your standards, and these are your standards. The standards for a social studies 4 through 8 teacher. You need to be able to do the things in this document, and you need to know the things that are mentioned in this document. And so what I want you to do is to print this out and staple it together, and you're going to use, this is going to be your new study booklet. And I want for you to engage with this text in a sort of dialogue type way where you're taking notes, writing comments, rephrasing things in your own word, asking questions for Miss Sauceda later on if you need to, like dialoguing with the text. It's a strategy. So each one of these I want for you to put in their own words. Like you'll take a look at this one. You'll notice that the TEKS, Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, they're specifically standard 3, right? Hold on one second. Someone's here. That's weird. One moment. Oh, goodness. So you'll see each of these categories within your own standards. It's like your Bible again for your content area, and you have history, standard 4, geography, standard 5, economics, standard 6, government. These are going to be recurring categories under which both knowledge and skills are required in each of the grade levels. So you're doing 4 through 8, but in kindergarten, there's still a history section. There's a geography section. It's not as huge and inundated with things, as we discuss and get into more complex time periods, complex ideas, concepts, then those areas get bigger with knowledge and skills that the students have to learn. But the way that I would study for this exam is to take a very close look at the TEKS at each of the grade levels. The 4th grade, which I've already done it several times with students, so I already know. It's like 4th grade is Texas history light. It's like Texas history for babies without all the terrible things that we did to people and some of the tougher discussions, right? So it's like learning about the Indians and what they were like, but Texas history, but it's like Texas history light. 5th grade is US history light. It delves into the United States. 6th grade is world history light. delving into world histories, different cultures, different societies, civilizations. There's even a TEKS for teachers to think and discuss like the value of other countries or communities based on certain like descriptors like the GDP or life expectancy, so like if you have a really great, your GDP is all awesome, but your life expectancy is crap, then maybe you still don't want to live there, there.
Yeah.
And so that's one of them in each of the grades though. Oh, that I wasn't finished. So sixth grade is world history. Seventh grade is Texas history on steroids, right? Really giving them the deep and dirty dive into Texas history. Eighth grade is going to be U.S. history again. The deep dive. Remember, we did U.S. history light, and then we did world history light, and then we get into Texas history on steroids and the beginnings of, I would say, U.S. history medium, because there is an actual U.S. history class, which goes into great detail, but it's only half a semester, so maybe it's about the same. The point is that each of these categories, and so in each of these, you have to know everything that is there, and then you need to be able to do particular things with this knowledge with your students, right? So it's not just for you to know the Indians, or what their life was like. What was their life like then? How did it change with the coming of and then like what does that mean for, like for history, or what does that say about like some of the ways that we got our land, like some of our means for colonization. And so being able to have those conversations, ask them poignant questions, and sort of begin to understand the reasons why we study these things of past, like why it's important for us to know the history, and to, at some point, I think it's in the eighth grade. Eighth grade might be, we'll go back. We're going to look at it in detail. But so I found a really great resource. These are the standards. And you've seen the video on my YouTube channel?
Yes.
Okay,
I put my
excellent.
name also on the.
Yes. I think I saw that. So one really great, oh gee, I forgot to close the whole thing up. Okay, so I feel like Zoom really needs an update. Like I've been using Zoom since 2013, 14 to like teach teachers,
Uh-huh.
and it's been the same this entire time. Like it has not gotten any
No
better,
updates.
in my opinion. So I have these STAR tests. This is and they used to have seventh grade, like a Texas history one, but here is the release STAR test for eighth grade. And remember, eighth grade is the highest level, grade level in your certification area. So this is a good practice, because you have to know what they have to know. You have to be able to do what they need to be able to do. And this is supposed to be an assessment of both what they know and what they're able to do as far as social studies is concerned. So there are 8 or 9 years worth of STAR tests for eighth grade and the study guides. And let me go and show you this here. Okay. Here. So here is, and so for some of them, that's not the one we were looking at, but for some of them I included the, like basic answer key. And then this one gives you a more like meatier rationale on why other answers are wrong. So this is a great study tool, because I guarantee you these concepts and ideas will be on the exam, and we can just take a look at one. Oh my goodness, I know why this one is such not a good question. Like I hate it. Okay. Barbed wire was invented, and that's actually how they like took the valley away. They like all the ranches that were already ranches that belonged to people, they like threw up barbed wire, and they were like, oh, look at our new land. Like some people's families for generations were buried on their land, and they weren't able to come back in because barbed wire was just like, oh, and that's it, you're out. So how did the introduction of barbed wire fences benefit farmers? And so like that might be an easy question, but study the diagram and answer the following questions. Which statement explains how the First Amendment has affected these groups? Okay, well, these are super easy, right?
Hold on, sorry.
Let me see. What was one way to slow communication with the British government affected the American? What was one way slow communication with affected the colonies? I would imagine that like self-government developed in the colonies. Like if they're not answering us at the home base, like the answer still needs to be answered. Like, let's do it this way until somebody, the queen, decides to tell us, you know. That's
Yeah.
what I would guess, that would be you know, one way slow communication with the British government affected American colonies. I think that it created an atmosphere where they needed to self-govern because they had no
No
one
one
speaking to
give
them.
them order.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is a great something for you to go through and use it as at first an assessment tool. Assess yourself. Don't use it as a study tool first. Take it, grade yourself. And let me see how many questions. What do you think about like some of these? Like they would be asked on the exam, I feel like.
Yeah, it seems like some of them would be, well, most of them.
But again, this is mostly over United States history, right? So this is gonna leave out, I mean, US history is Texas history, and you can bet your butt that we're gonna put a whole bunch of Texas history in our US history exam because we feel like we're the best state in the union, blah, blah, blah. So like there will be Texas history stuff in here, but it certainly you want to make sure that you are bolstering your knowledge with careful study of the TEEX and really going through and making sure that you look up, like if you don't know a person's name and you're not familiar with it, you see like Nunez, somebody Nunez, like I was doing this before and we came across this rebellion. It's called Fredonians Rebellion. And so as I'm doing it, I'm like, okay, bro, this is a perfect example of like, there's no shame in not knowing something. Like, I have no idea what this is talking about. Let's go really quick. And we dropped it in the search bar at YouTube, and it brought up some very short, brief, beautiful explanations of what the Fredonian Rebellion was. And then now we both know, he knows it and I know it. And once you watch that video, you'll know it too.
It
I'm gonna
sounds
put it up.
familiar.
Yeah, it was a impresario, like a Hayden Edwards or something, Hardenet, something. I see, I've already forgotten his name, but he was not fulfilling his part of the impresario-ness and not like, you know, doing some cultivating the land and whatnot and doing enough. And so new settlers to Texas wanted, and to this area wanted the old settlers to have to like take accountability. Like, listen, if you have a land grant, you better be doing something with it and giving back to like us trying to do more and blah, blah, blah. And so people who weren't, and he was one of them, that was like, they didn't feel like he was doing what he was supposed to. And then so like the Mexican army sent some people to go, and it created like, he was upset, he ran away, and he called he like, what is it called, he decided that he was gonna call his little piece of land like an independent nation, and
Oh,
it was called Fredonian. And like he was gonna go, he went to the United States for backup, and he left his brother in charge, and his brother waited for like 2.5 seconds and then was like, nobody's gonna come and save us, like we just like made our own nation, like this is not, and it didn't, nobody did go and help them. And so it was a very short-lived brief, which is why we don't know it, which is why we know nothing about it. But it's important because it is listed on the TEKS. And if they're on the TEKS, that means the students have to know it. And if the students have to know it, we certainly have to know it, because we not only have to know it, but we have to know how best to teach it to them and
Yeah.
have them understand why we're teaching it to them. Like, why is this important?
Yeah, because you always have those kids, well, why do we need to learn this?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you gotta always be like hitting them with the knowledge, like this is why it matters, this is why it matters, this is how it connects, making those real world connections. There is so much going on right now, like never have I seen, like I can't imagine being a US government teacher right now. Like I literally just cannot. Like the types of questions that US government teachers are probably receiving right now. And I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess if their kids are paying attention, if their parents are paying attention, then they're paying attention, because I know my kids are talking about it like crazy. So but everything, it matters. Understanding what autocracy is, so that we don't fall into one and we remain a democracy, very important. And those are things that we teach at 4 through 8, actually. So let's take a look at the TEKS. I've put 2 release exams in there. They cover different things, but they cover all of 8th grade TEKS. And I bet you they have 7th and 6th grade too, but let's take a look. Oh no, we need to go to 4th. So I'm just going to briefly show you, because I want for you to do a very deep dive of these yourself. So you'll have to access the elementary ones, because your grade level is in that middle area, right? 4 through 8.
Yeah.
So you do have some of that elementary knowledge, or you should have, about smaller kids, less attention span, breaking things up, having lots of, procedures and tactile activities in order to illustrate stuff. Okay, so 4th grade is the examination of Texas from the early beginnings to the present within the context of influences of North America. Focuses on Texas history, including Texas Revolution, establishment of the Republic of Texas, subsequent annexation of the United States. Students discuss important issues, and you can read the rest of it. But here I'd like to bring your attention to the the categories that I was talking about before. So here you have history, and so the Karankawan Indians, they are the only ones of the 4 that I feel knowledgeable enough to say, like, I know that. The other 3, the Apache, the Caddo, and the Humano, I would have to look up, because the only reason I know about Karankawan is because like my great grandfather was a tribe member, and they roamed in the valley, and that was there. And like, because I'm from there, and it's my son mi gente, that's the only reason. But
Yeah.
I would have to Google the rest of them, and I would have to make notes, because I don't know enough about them to be able to identify and compare ways of life of them. Like, I recognize their names, yes, but I wouldn't be able to do that skill. And that's a skill that the students have to be able to do. They have to be able to have a conversation with us and identify and compare the reasons why, whether it be in conversation, whether it be in their writing, or they drew us a picture, however we're assessing them, they have to be able to do that, which means we have to be able to do that. So as you go through here, make sure, and I would do like 4th grade, the overarching idea, like in my own words, what 4th grade social studies is mostly about. And we already know it's Texas History Light. And then do the little categories, the history. And then now after history, it's geography. And then after geography, it's economics. And those are the same things as your standard, and they correlate and they overlap. So have that document out with you. You can even take notes there, like do your notes on that document itself, and really become familiar with the difference between 4th grade social studies and 5th grade. And we're going to go look at it right now. fifth grade, just so we can see incrementally how they change. So now we have in fifth grade, the students are surveying the history of the United States. From historical, the historical content includes colonial period, American Revolution, establishment of the US Constitution, et cetera. Now, I would again, right, what do they need to know about the history about it? What do they need to know? And go through these and make sure you have a working knowledge. Like, you can tell me a couple of things about John Adams. You can tell me a couple of things about Benjamin Franklin. Whose like crystallized flute did Lizzo just play somewhere and all of Twitter was melting down to the ground?
Could you repeat that?
Lizzo, the singer and musician, she played somebody's crystal. It was like a historical figure. Let me try to see. I want to say it was John Adams, and it was just recently. I'm gonna look it up for us because I must know. First thing that came up. Flute. Oh, James Madison. Just kidding. John Addison, James Madison. They're very similar. Anywho, look up and make sure that you have just like a working, just where you would be able to turn to your think, pair, share partner and say, this is what John Adams was about. Like, not he was born on this day, blah, 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 but what he's most notable for. And in my what is it, the YouTube playlist, I have where is it? Oh, here it is. Social studies 4 through 8. So these are just like a little breakdown, like Karankoin, Coquilin, the Caddo, the different American, the overview of it. So you could just watch these and take notes on these different things. But there's also others, oh, here it is, social studies 7 through 12. Okay, because it's US history too, right? And so I just haven't had the chance to go and like click all of these, like save all of these to the 4 through 8 playlist. But the US history crash course is another really great one for you. And that channel is a good review for you. History crash course. I that right here. And I'm subscribed to it, and I whenever possible try to add in the crash course videos because they are very good.
Okay.
Like Black American history. I mean, and there's like so many, it's kind of ridiculous. I don't even know, like, it must be a whole company of geniuses working for this, but they have like literally everything, physics, chemistry, whatever you need, they got it. So use your TEXES and your standard as a guide, and then whatever you do as you're dialoguing with your text, as you're sort of like summarizing what is mostly about and what they need to learn and what's different. And if you come across names that you are not familiar with, and there's no way you're not going to. I don't know who Roger Williams is, and I don't know John Smith. I think I do know John Smith because I want to say in colonial times, he wrote this really crazy sermon, like he was a reverend. And if that's not his name, I don't know. I'm going to look up John Smith. Just my point is, when there's nothing wrong with not knowing, we do not know everything. No teacher ever did. Not the American. Is it an English soldier? Colonial governor. There. Oh, John Smith. That's why I know him from the stupid Disney story with Pocahontas. Good God. Anyway, he's not the writer I was thinking about. Okay, calm down. No, that's not it. So yeah, the guy with Pocahontas. That's weird. But if that's how you need to remember it, then that's the way you remember it. Let me do sinners in the hands of an angry God. This is a Jonathan Edwards. You see Jonathan Edwards, John Smith. Very similar. Anyway.
Didn't if I remember this right, even from history class, that so it was John Smith that ordered Pocahontas' execution, or was that John Roll?
I'm not sure. I want to say it was John Smith in the end. But I'm really bad about the history, as you saw, as you saw
Yeah,
just now.
no.
My least knowledgeable subject. If I had to, I could pass this exam if I would study the appropriate things. But yes, use your standards and your TEKS as your best study manual, you know what I mean? And you can also within the folder, and you have access to the folder, right?
The one that was on the email?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I have it there.
Yeah, it should be right underneath, like a couple of bullets underneath the link to the playlist. And so that will have these exams that you can quiz yourself with. And it's also has your standards, the old study manual. So now you have this manual and the one that they have online. And this one is still good. They haven't changed anything about the test. And so going through being able to answer these questions. See, and this is how it's more challenging. Like, it's not enough just to know the Monroe Doctrine. You have to like, what's its primary claim? You know, what is it mostly about? I don't know why that thing turned on right now. Okay, I remember. Because tomorrow I have to go at the same time to my daughters. My daughters are in a Spanish club and it's like Spanish class for 1 hour after school. And it was very expensive. It was $280. And the lady that teaches it, apparently they've only gone once and neither of them wants to return. Like, they're like, she yells, it's not fun. They're in first and second grade, and it's an elementary Spanish class. So tomorrow I promised them I would go sit in on the class. They were like, can you go and teach her? I'm like, I'm not going to go do that. I will go and watch and see if it's worth you guys continuing, you know. I certainly don't want them to go and like hate Spanish and, you know, as a result of their instruction, because I like they were all like, we don't want Spanish in our lives anymore. And I'm like, what? Cállate, you're going. Like, anyway. Oh, I think it's, oops.